I had seen this article from PCGamer making the rounds. This was posted 3 days ago. And I wanted to look at it because everybody is sending it to me. It says Final Fantasy XIV's next big challenge, making players feel like they're getting their monthly subs worth, not just funding Square's flops while WoW stacks value. Now that is a spicy, spicy title and headline. On a whole, yeah. And let me just first say, I currently feel like if you do not raid in FFXIV, you might not have enough to do every day of the month that you're paying for your monthly subscription fee. I don't know if the monthly subscription model is working that well. That makes a lot of sense for the content model that they have for Final Fantasy XIV. Because while you're going through the story, it kind of does make sense because you can play, you have a ton of story content to do. You have hundreds of hours to do. But I guess I wish that there was some way that you could revert to free trial status and have all the free trial restrictions in place in between times that you were playing a lot. On the whole, I can thoroughly say I like Dawntrail. I have huge critical thoughts about its story, but as far as Final Fantasy XIV expansions go, Dawntrail brought a lot to the table. Massive graphics overhaul. Honestly, yes, the graphics overhaul is incredible. The zones have a far bigger visual scope. The zones are stunning. The graphics look amazing. Some of the best battle content I've seen out the team in years. Some of the boss fights are incredible. Like we talked about, Sphene fight was awesome. This solo battle you have with Galulja was incredible. I'm excited for what's to come. In terms of stuff to do, FF14 is going to be stacked with a ton of it by the time the expansion's over. Variant dungeons, new limited job. That's true. Yeah, I forgot. We got Beastmaster coming up, a new exploration zone coming up. That's right. Bringing back variant dungeons. Savage version of Alliance. No, that's not what that is. That's not what that is. You might want to double check your notes, my dude, because whatever the heck planetary exploration is. The problem is, though, all this stuff you mentioned that's really good is not coming till like 2026? When is the exploration zone coming? Is it actually going to be in 2026? Are we looking at late 2025 or 2026? Okay, it's really, really, really long time. It's 4.5 months between patches. Variant should be on odd patches and allowing for catch-up gear, not backloaded to the end of the expansion cycle. Basically, it's a really, really long time to wait for stuff that we need early on in the expansion to give people things to do outside of, you know, like, I think it's important when the expansion comes out, you want to keep people hooked in so you have the social groups still alive and people having things to do together, like exploration stuff. So they stay, because it's like, it's natural that you get a big spike of players at the start of the expansion and then it's going to fall. And if you had been able to maintain more of those people from the spike, then the fall off will be less over the lifetime of the expansion. Like, if you add some hype features at the very end of the expansion's life cycle, you'll get a little bump. But it's not gonna help as much as if you had had that stuff early. I don't know. I think exploration is in 725, which it should be around May. What? Well, let's check. That doesn't sound right, but let me check. When did Bajja release? Okay. Bajja came out 5.35. When did Eureka come out? Eureka came out in 4.25. So either the difference between 0.25 and 0.35 are pretty huge. If it's gonna be 0.35, which I would expect, I wouldn't expect a development cycle like what we got in Stormblood, because Stormblood was very, very different in terms of development. I would expect more like a 0.35 patch. So when could we expect a 0.35? It's literally 2026. Was I right? Okay. Around September or October of 2025. So a whole year from now is how long we would have to wait until Exploration Zone, if it follows the same development cycle that we had seen in previous expansion. If it doesn't, then maybe May. I think May would, if it follows what Stormblood does, which I wouldn't expect, but then we're looking at May. In any case, it's a long time. It's a long time to wait. We just need more for people to do between these patches that it doesn't include, doesn't require an organized raid team. And I definitely don't want to raid in PF. That's just not for me. I would like to have other things to do besides that. In terms of stuff to do, FF14 is good. Yeah, we already talked about that. That's because most of what I'm excited for is half a year away, bare minimum. Yes, bare minimum. See, back in 2022, Square Enix made the decision to slow down its patch releases. 2 weeks were tacked on to the original 3.5 month cycle. This was back in Endwalker, and those extra 2 weeks made things feel sluggish. Combined with the dearth of Midcore content, there just wasn't much to actually do. This is a thing. Dawntrail won't have that problem eventually, given that the Midcore content I miss is making a return, but it's going to be absent for a while. Assuming the Exploration Zone will be coming with patch 7.2, that means Dawntrail will have the... Here's the thing, though. You might think to yourself, well, we don't have this Midcore content, if you can call it that, if it's going to be that. We're not going to have that right now because we have the Ultimate Raid coming out. We have other stuff coming out, but we need all of it together. Okay. We don't need just an Ultimate Raid and Alliance Raid. We need an Ultimate Raid, we need an Alliance Raid, we need a new battle job, we need the Exploration Zone, and we need variant dungeons. Basically, the game needs more money. The game needs to be better funded by Square Enix. Really. That is my we can't like, well, we have this content for the hardcore players, we have this content for the... You kind of have to give something to everybody. That's the difficulty of making an MMO, and that's why this type of a game is so freaking expensive, why nobody wants to make an MMO in this day and age, because it's so expensive. You gotta make so many different kinds of people happy, have so many different kinds of content for them all, to keep them all busy, because somebody who's gonna be doing ultimate raiding, they're gonna be very, very busy for a while. But someone who doesn't care about that at all, who's content just to watch it, they're gonna have nothing to do, you know? So that's the challenge that they face. I think reality is just, one, WoW has content to do all day if a person wants. FF has nothing to do. Finish the save in 2 days, now I enter the game once a week to re-clear. So you're raid logging. Yeah. But that's not it. That's not all. We are getting an Alliance raid with 7.1, and that is chill content that anybody can hop in to do, and we will do it. And it's gonna be fun to do a few times. We'll get our glams, we'll get our minions, you know, we'll do it. But it doesn't have the replayability that it would keep it, that would give it the longevity that it would need to sustain the player base who's interested in that type of content until the next patch. And you could say maybe this is an issue with the design of it, maybe this is an issue with the itemization. I don't know what the issue is. I'm not a dev. But I think that it's just not... it's not gonna last people long enough. No one's gonna be like, okay, this alliance raid is out. I'm an alliance raid player. That's my end game. No one says that. You do it a few times, you get your glams, and you're kind of done. You're kind of done with it. So I don't know. This wouldn't be as much of an issue if F14 was free to play or something. Not that I'm advocating for that, but it is a game with a monthly subscription. Around $13 a month goes toward this game if you're playing it, and for the past 4 months, your average non-rating subscriber has paid an extra $52 for a normal mode raid series, which is a few hours of story with 4 boss fights, a new repeatable treasure dungeon. The treasure dungeon is fun to do. It's a nice thing, and that is probably some of the more replayable content that the game has. But it's also like it's not an end game pathway, I guess. FF offers you cinematic experiences, not necessarily replayable ones. Yeah, absolutely. That is true. It offers you the cinematic experience, which is a story mode experience, and it excels at that. But how would you translate that into something that warrants a monthly sub? So you do the new story stuff, you do the new dungeon, you do the new alliance raid, you do the new story for the alliance raid. How can you make that type of content into a live service that has the player, keeps giving the player value for their money every single day? It's a difficult question. It's not an easy question to answer.
Thank you, Optimus Prime.
They're just they're fundamentally different philosophies. FFXIV is an RPG first and an MMO second. It isn't trying to keep people sub for 12 months a year with menial tasks, the way WoW generally does. I think that's kind of a problem. It's true that FFXIV and WoW are fundamentally different, but I think FFXIV needs to try harder to earn people's subscription fee as an MMO. Does it do well as a single-player RPG? Yes. It does better and better all the time as that. But if you want the game to succeed and have social groups that are online together doing things together all the time, which is what gives a game its the breath of life in it, that keeps it feeling alive at in-game, I feel like they have to think of some new and innovative ways to keep people coming back every single day, subbing every single day. I cannot tell you how many friends of mine I have that just tell me that they will unsub between the major patches because they just can't, like, they finish the story and they did all the content once or twice in the patch and then they unsub for a while, and I really don't know how to tell people, well, you shouldn't do that, you better resub right now to do what with me. Like, I can't think of anything. If you're done with a story and you're not rating, like, I don't know. They could remove they have good ideas. They have good ideas for stuff like, you know, that's coming. We've already talked about limited job, the exploration zones. This is stuff that have kept people subbed in the past, but it's not going to be here till maybe a whole year from now. And that's, what are we supposed to do in the meantime? What's going to happen to our social groups in the meantime? I think that's where FFXIV is starting to hurt, is where you have games like Throne and Liberty or Lost Ark that are completely free and have just as much or sometimes more content. I don't know. Look at all the jobs in FFXIV. They tell you to play all jobs in one character, but then make it impossible to actually gear all your jobs. Impossible. Well, here's the question that I think a lot of casual players run into, and that I ran into once I started playing the game more casually. Because I used to think that. But then once I started playing the game more casually, I realized I don't need this. Like, I actually I don't need to gear my jobs. I care only about getting the glamour that I want, which I can do with trust. And then I won't be, like, I can also, with my trust, get the minions that I want at the end of dungeons. And that's typically what I end up doing. So again, that's not social content that adds to the MMO. Now I'm doing all that shit in trust. Yeah. You don't, and it's great. But you need other things to do if it's not just about pumping up your eye level. There's gonna be some other things that you can dive into that's new and exciting and different. To be fair, there's also the launch content. MSQ takes a while to clean away. Clear away. Your average player will level up some alts. There's the crafting request to do. Fate grinds. I did the fate grinding thing for 2 expansions, and I don't think I'm going to do it this time. All of which really doesn't add up to 4 months of entertainment. With patch 7.1, those same players are getting some new main story quests, some Allied Society dailies, the first entry in a new Alliance raid series. Yeah, this is stuff that's going to keep us busy for a few weeks with the patch. It'll keep us busy for a little bit. On the face of it, it sounds like a lot, but for 4 months, that's the issue. It's not just 4 months, it's 4.5 months. With the exception of purposefully time-gated stuff like custom deliveries and Allied Society quests, you can all that out in a couple of weekends. Yes, your average baby casual will get through their toys quickly and then have nothing to work towards beyond leveling other jobs or tackling older content they've not done yet. That'll change with Exploration Zone, but again, we're talking 6 months to a year. If this is the whole discussion that we've been having today, and honestly, I kind of agree. If anything, the schedule seems backwards. Underserving the majority of players until 2025, while the comparatively smaller raiding scene gets prioritized first. But it needs to be prioritized. Like, the Ultimate needs to happen. Ultimate needs to come out. Ultimate is important to the game. Ultimate helps advertise the game. It gives people something exciting to stream and talk about. It creates a buzz about the game. It's like a showcase of the best combat design that FFXIV has available. It gives people something to aspire to, instruct. We need it. But how do we keep the MMO like healthy for everyone while having that at the same time? To me, it's just it's an issue of budget. It just keeps coming back to that for me. It's a budget issue. It's about resources. And with this chaotic alliance raid difficulty, in quotes, to me, that feels like we've heard you. We understand what you need. We don't have the budget for it, but we're going to do our best. This is what we can afford to stick in this patch right now that we know that we need. And the game needs more resources than it has to work with for how big it is and for how many different kinds of players are playing the game now. Especially since, I hate to do this. Oh, but you're gonna do it! But you're gonna do it! You're gonna do it! 12 knows this comparison is one that's been done to death. Oh, Lord. I hope you can forgive me. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I'm about to compare World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV on the internet. Oh no. Oh no. I'm scared. I'm scared. Maybe abort. Maybe we don't need to do this. I'm fucking alone. Oh no. If you're a seasoned WoW player, you're probably reaching for a pitchfork. Let me explain. I don't know what to reach for. Like, I play both games. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to be mad at. Yes, the game's had big issues with its delves. Yes, it had a wonky balance patch and dropped a $90 dinosaur on the store. For some reason, there was a reason. The reason was, here's the difference between Blizzard and Square Enix. Blizzard is very good at taking your money. They love taking your money. So it stands to reason that they are good at taking money, and then they use maybe more of that money on making sure people say subscribe to the game. Square Enix is not very good at taking people's money. And then we have problems with the budget. But there's really no guarantee that the money that they take will go into the game, but that's a whole different discussion. But from where you guys were back in 2020, you're eating good. Since The War Within came out in August, you've had a 3-section raid, a bunch of new story quests, a bunch of mechanical stuff to grind through like Delves and Mythic Plus, and you just got a big stonking anniversary event with a bunch of goodies to grind. That's what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing for the past week. That's all while your average mid-core player has actually had stuff to do, reps to gear to get, little gubbins to grab. I should also point out that even just looking at the main game, this has all come on a shorter schedule too, just 1 month and 26 days. If we're using our anniversary event as a milestone, that's compared to FF14 taking over 4 months to get to patch 7.1. I think one way that World of Warcraft is able to get patches out faster is by not testing the content. Yeah, they're able to save a shitload of time by just skipping all the QA and like bug testing. Just don't even worry about that. Let the players do that part, and then it will massively cut down on the amount of time it takes to get the patches out. Yeah, we just tested for them, dude. That's why. We got our sword and shield Blizzard employee service awards from the anniversary event for our hard work doing QA testing for Blizzard Entertainment. Hell, we pay them to do it. They actually had paid beta testing for War Within for the early access. You pay them to do beta tests. In terms of content pacing, WoW is shoving FF14 in a locker and taking all of its lunch money. Why you gotta put it like that? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? They're not people. Okay, these are companies. It's not even close. Doing laps around the dang thing. I feel like this is weird. For that same subscription, you're also getting access to several classic versions of the game and Season of Discovery 2. That is true, though. That is true. Mop Remix, Plunderstorm, 100 different versions of the game, World of Warcraft. I gotta say, nobody can say that Blizzard is not fighting for your subscription fee all the time. They really, really try hard to make sure that you always have a reason to log in and that you're getting a lot of bang for your buck for the subscription fee. Like, we got trading posts where I want to log in that month to make sure that I can check the trading posts for that month. You've got like events going on. We got the Halloween event that has this other thing, seasonal events in WoW, like Halloween event. They have the same rewards from previous years that you can earn with the in-game currency that you could if you didn't do it the previous years. Meanwhile, FF14 doesn't, if you didn't do the previous years, you have to pay for the old rewards in the cash shop, which isn't great. But yeah, WoW definitely has given us a lot to do with the time that we spend in the game. But I think maybe a lot of it has to do with the itemization in WoW, where there's a lot of different sources for loot, a lot of different sources for upgrades that makes people want to do different kinds of things. FF14, the itemization is, like, where you get loot is very strict, it's very predictable, and it's totally different. It's totally different. But I felt like, yeah, I've had more to do in WoW. I'm trying so hard not to just cape for WoW here. Doing so makes me feel like my inner cat voice being betrayed. This is another thing that I find this weird. I find this weird. When we talk about these games in terms of loyalty and betrayal, in terms of like, sometimes people will be like, oh, are you cheating on FF? What are you talking? These are companies. These are products. You're a customer. You're a client. Okay? It's not your boyfriend. It's not your girlfriend. It's not your best friend. It's not about friendship. It's not about betrayal. It's about what game is good. It's about, are you having fun in that game? Are you getting value for your money? Do you feel good about spending money on that at the time that you spent the money on it? That's all it's about. And I feel like when people do this too much, they get crazy about these things. And they stop seeing things clearly as they really are, as they truly are. And I know that's difficult when you develop a sense of attachment to these games that are with you, like a friend holding your hand through all the journeys of your life. Trust me, I know. But I do think that anthropomorphizing the company isn't really good. Isn't very good. The simple, straightforward fact of the matter is that Blizzard spent the last couple of years in a Herculean effort to stack more and more value onto that price point. They have, though. They really fight for your money. It's objectively succeeded. If you're a WoW player, you are busy. And I think this is just about what are you coming to the MMO to do? Why are you playing an MMO? Are you playing the MMO so you have little tasks and little things to do every day? So you have, like, things that feel good to accomplish? That you like having a little checklist of things you want to get done? I personally do play MMOs for that reason. I like having little things like that that I can work on all the time. But I've also found that looking back on my time playing FF14 and the time I look forward to playing more FF14, it's not usually been about that. My enjoyment that I've gotten out of FF14 has been about story experiences. It's been about those cinematic experiences that we discussed earlier. And in terms of like the day-to-day MMOE mindset, FF14 hasn't usually been about that. It's just not been made that way. But I do think this is a real problem for the subscription model. If they want, it's like, they want to create this game that has cinematic content to do every 4.5 months. That's going to be this incredible story experience that's polished. And, you know, it's not meant to be played over and over. It's not meant to be played every day because it's a different philosophy. How do you turn this into an MMO? Like MMO-y, large-scale stuff that keeps people coming back every day with things to do every day without coming up with a lot of new content that's going to cost them money, a lot of money, extra money. From a development standpoint, I'm being harsh on Yoshi-P's team. Blizzard got bought by Microsoft for billions of dollars. It's Microsoft's biggest investment, and thus it's where a lot of the money's going. It's likely had a larger and more flexible squad and better backing. That's what it comes down to. We keep coming back to this point. It just feels like it's about budget. If you're looking where to spend your cash, then none of that matters, does it? It's more than just pound for pound content that's got me fretting, though. It's the feeling that we've been set on the same course for years with no end in sight. I think, I remember in the media tour, when Yoshi-P was asking us questions, somebody asked, I think it was Lamatod, somebody asked a question that was like, hey, can you like update some of the MMO features of the game? Like the friends list, can you make the friends list updated so that it feels like it's from 2024 and update the chat features and the social features of the game to be modern? And I feel like I remember Yoshi-P saying something like, oh, he had said something like, can you make it more like BNet, like the BattleNet friends list, where it's just much easier to communicate with people. Can you work on this? And I think Yoshi-P has said something like, well, comparing it to BNet, you know, Blizzard is a huge company. I think I wrote down what he said, but it was something along the lines of, Blizzard is a huge company with a different resource pool. And it really came off to me as saying, Blizzard has better way to distribute the resources their game needs than what they got to deal with over there at Square Enix. Like, Square Enix is kind of, it's a disaster. They constantly, they kill live service games all the damn time. And the fact that FFXIV has managed to be as good as it is, in spite of Square Enix, is a fucking miracle. FFXIV is like, it's like a walled garden in a sense, where how they managed to make it as good as it is, it's only because of the managing skill and resource organization that Yoshi-P has. But it has always felt to me like they're operating on a shoestring budget. Always felt like that to me. Yeah. It's just, some of this makes me feel like, is FFXIV just constantly up against dealing with the fact that they have to work with Square Enix to get what they need? It likely has a large... Yeah, it's more than just pound for pound content that's got me fretting, though. It's the feeling that we've been set on the same course for years with no end in sight. Final Fantasy XIV is sort of like a big cruise liner that's been stacking up its itinerary for 10 years. It's utterly massive, and if you just got on board, you've got floors and floors to explore, and over a decade's worth of bingo nights to catch up on. What's more, those bingo nights got lore, the bingo nights can make you cry, but it's also just as predictable and unwieldy. It has a rigid list of ports it visits each year. And no amount of hollering will change a captain's mind on that. More importantly, though, if it's about to run into a coral reef, it's not going to be able to pull off a hairpin turn. You're all just going to have to grab something and hold on. What? What? This predictability can be charming. It was even actively a plus when WoW Shadowlands went through its obscene content drought. But if you're all caught up in your endgame, if you're a seasoned player that's been there a while, you're going to be eyeing up the lifeboats. Okay, so it's been predictable, it has been consistent, but has been unable to make the quick changes that are necessary. Is that what you're saying? I mean, we'll see, but yeah. I do feel like some of it, though, is just an unwillingness to take bigger risks. I think it's just that. They're unwilling to take the bigger risks that they would need. If you're familiar with F14's update cadence, you know exactly what content is going to come in with, what the reward structure will be like, how it'll be delivered. Every Savage tier, you get your crafted gear. You go in, trade the same books, same boosts, and same numbers. You finish your bis. You wait for 6 months, you do it again. But why? Like... This is if you're doing Savage. What if you decide not to do Savage and just do normal mode, like I did? I started to have the real casual experience with this expansion when I decided I didn't want to prog Savage. And yeah, it has been hard to, like... It's just, I've struggled to find things to do. I've been playing World of Warcraft because I have a lot more to do in World of Warcraft. And people will come to me when I'm playing World of Warcraft in the chat, and they're like, why aren't you playing FF14 right now? Literally, people say that exactly to me all the time. And I'm like, dude, I don't have anything to do right now. I will wait till there's stuff to do, and then I will do it. But, like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I'm waiting for the stuff that I'm there for. It doesn't help that certain secondary activities haven't changed in years. Treasure maps are more or less the same, with different coat of paint every expansion. That's the thing, though. They love doing that. They like to package an experience, make it this perfect cube, like a perfect box of the experience, and then remanufacture that same thing lots of times. Because it's predictable. It fits into their development schedule very easily because they know exactly what's going to take for them to get that done because they've did it. They are doing this with dungeons. During the media tour, somebody asked Yoshi-P, why are the dungeons 2 packs and a boss every time? Like, would you ever change it up? And Yoshi-P said something like, it's the dungeon package. It's good. I think the question was like, do you think this is the perfect dungeon model? And he was like, yeah, it's our dungeon package. It's predictable. You know, it gives people the same experience every time. It's easy for them to develop it. They know exactly how long. It'll keep them everything on schedule, nice and neat. But you can't keep doing that, man. It's just gonna become so formulaic and so boring. You gotta change it up a little bit, man. You really... That's not to say Square's not made an effort. One of the big positives for Endwalker was Creative Studio 3 knuckling down and completely redesigning a lot of the old dungeons. He said it's risky to change that, though, because then people will complain. Exactly. Exactly. You got it. They're terrified of making these risks and innovating and making these big changes. They're terrified. They're so afraid of people will hate it. They're so worried that people will complain that they don't like it. But that's part of creation. That's part of the creative process. That's the most painful part. That's why taking risks is hard. Anybody who's ever made any creative work in their life knows this. You want to, it's like this, you want to go out on a limb and make something fresh and different. And it's soul crushing to find out that people didn't like that. You know, I get it. But if you don't go all the way, if you don't go out on that limb, you take half measures, you're just going to come up with something that feels like the same old, same old. So what's worse? People being bored by the same old, or people being mad because it was so crazy and different? I think the former's worse. Personally, I think the former's worse. You gotta do it. You gotta buckle in and do it. Maybe gives people some of the same things, but some of the other things be a little bit more crazy. Yeah, I don't... Hi, Jay! Hey. Yes. And I wonder, too, if part of that reluctance to take the risks also is because of the budget and the resources. I wonder if that's actually related. If they're thinking, we'll never get the funding again for the thing if we tried something crazy and then people didn't like it, and then they're never gonna let us try this thing again, because, you know, maybe that's an extra layer of pressure. I don't know what, this, like, I don't know what's involved in them asking for the money they need, but I feel like it's probably so bad. I feel like it's probably so bad. Okay. Yes, they redesigned a lot of the old dungeons. That's true. But is that taking a risk? No. You're fixing shit that was broke. That's not risky. Not to mention adding duty support to the lion's share of them. That's going to be a new Hall of the Novice with 7.1 even. They are doing tune-ups, but it's all coming at a downright sluggish pace. But Harvey, I hear you say. What about the new content types we got in Endwalker? Ah, imaginary reader. I'm not imaginary. I reply, they're actually a good example of what I'm talking about. True. Oh my god, you're really gonna say this. You're really gonna get into this, aren't you? I know exactly what you're about to say. I know exactly what you're about to say. You're about to lay it all out. Harvey. Harvey is sick and tired, man. Holy shit. What's your... Harvey Randall. You're really laying it. You don't even give a fuck at this point, do you? You've compared WoW. Yeah, I'm sure that this article went over really well with the community. Yeah, I bet it's infuriating and more than a little counterintuitive. But this unwieldiness shows the most when Yoshi-P's team actually experiments. I mean, yeah. Endwalker did have a lot of experimental new content, but then they released it in the most, like, formulaic way imaginable. They literally took the concept of something like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, which is a playground. It's like some of the most free-form, open-ended content imaginable, and they turned it into a production line. Straight up. Why? Like, I just feel like they need to let things be a little bit more free. WoW had to pull the emergency lever on its pre-expansion event earlier this year when its reward structure stank up the room. Oh, are you talking about Plunderstorm? I don't know. No, they didn't. A pre-expansion event. Oh, pre-patch event. I think I was too busy with other shit. That's what I'm saying. The issue is, when Creative Studio 3 makes a foundational mistake with the new piece of content, it won't be able to get off the doomed railroad it's made for itself in time to deal with it. Endwalker was a great example of this, with variant dungeons and Island Sanctuary. Oh my god. Oh my god. People forget how much time and effort goes into the game. The story, buffs, nerfs, the setting, resources, character design, and moves. Yes. In the end, they just want to make the customer happy. And if they don't know what it is you want, how can they provide it? By asking themselves if it is fun and replayable. I think that you have to judge it for yourself a little bit. Like, there's no way you can check, like, I remember back in Shadowlands, World of Warcraft tried to check if people thought something was fun by looking at player numbers and how many people were engaging with that content. And they figured, well, the more people that are doing it, probably that means that it's more fun. But this is not the way. Like, it's a bit of data you might be able to use, but maybe a lot of people are doing it because they feel forced to do it. Ultimately, you developers have to test it yourself and be like, did I like that? Was that cool? Was that exciting? Was that fun? Then use that. You kind of have to rely on, trust your heart a bit. Yeah, started working on Island Sanctuary. It's slightly cool at first, but it just becomes a spreadsheet manager. It's a real shame. Yes, I know. With variant dungeons, the reward structure was all borked. For casual players, you'd rinse through 12 routes and then never touch the thing again. I'll never forget. I tell this story all the time, but I'm gonna tell it again. First time variant dungeon came out, it was the Ul'dah one. And I remember logging in patch day to do it. And Preach, my friend Preach, had already been playing for a while because he's EU and I live in America right now. And by the time I logged in, on patch day to start doing it, he'd already done all 12 routes and got his mount and was done. On patch day, before I even had a chance to log in, he already finished. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. For hardcore players doing the most. You logged on within 6 hours. Yes, I was too late. For hardcore players doing the more difficult Criterion version. Yeah, and that's the thing. Is this supposed to keep people busy for weeks, for months, 4 months? It can't. It just can't. Criterion version, rewards suck. There was no reason to do them. Well, here we go again with the Criterion reward. This is such a meme at this point. Zepla streams FFXIV without mentioning Criterion rewards impossible challenge. This wasn't even me. This isn't my fault, man. This is in the article. I'm just reading it. There was no reason to do them once you'd grabbed your mount. Similarly, I know, dude. I know. Let's just let Harvey talk. Island Sanctuary kind of fumbled the bag, turning into a spreadsheet simulator that was a chore to get through despite having a lot of snazzy rewards. Kind of the opposite problem. Yeah, that's true. Island Sanctuary had the opposite problem. I never thought about it that way. Had us tons of great rewards, but you gotta do the... I remember they were like, okay, Island Sanctuary. So you're gonna have this island all to yourself. And it's just gonna be for you chilling out and relaxing and just, you know, you've had a rough time. You've been in Walker, you've been through a lot. Your character. It's time to relax. Have a little vacation getaway. Maybe capture some animals, have a little farm. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds amazing. And then you get there and you're like, okay, so here's your staff. You need to schedule them days off and make sure that they're working all day on the days that they're on schedule, okay? And make sure that they're cycling through for the highest production value of the shit that you need to manufacture for your farm, okay? There's gonna be different stocks. There's gonna be supply and demand every day, okay? This is, you gotta get to work if you wanna make the money that you need to get your shit. I'm like, work? You're talking about I gotta put them on schedule and schedule the days off. I thought this was supposed to be my days off. It's the island for me. What the fuck? It was crazy. It's so crazy. Who came up with this and is like, yeah, That's how we relax.
Soggy Tacos says Tom Nook also lied to use in Animal Crossing.
That's how we relax. Maybe it's actually Yoshi-P. Maybe spreadsheets is how Yoshi-P relaxes. It might be the case. I heard he really likes Excel. Like, he actually has fun in using Excel. So maybe for him it is amazing. I don't know. Soggy Tacos, you said Tom Nook lied to use Animal Crossing. It's kind of on brand. Good point. Wenlock, thank you for the 33-month resub. Super Dark Messiah, thank you for the 8-month resub as well. I appreciate it. Yes. Anyway. Anyway. Yeah. Hey, do you miss working when you play a video game? We've got just the thing for you. Yeah, it was so crazy. The reaction I had when I first discovered what it was going to be about, I'll never forget it. I just thought, okay, I'm a manager. I'm the senior manager of this place. Look, the whole point of having robots that work for you is that they handle it all. They kind of do their own thing. Anyway, I wish that I could have just focused on one part of Island Sanctuary. Like, that I enjoyed. Like, just focus on the farm. Or just focus on animals. And have that be everything about that. Like, maybe you could specialize in a certain part of it. I don't know. It just, all the activities funnel you into this one thing. So it doesn't feel very open-ended. It doesn't feel like the playground that I kind of hoped for and expected. I also hoped for more fun things to happen with my minions. I wanted my minions to, like, have special interactions besides just they have a voice, not a voice line, they have a text bubble. Okay. I wanted more to do with the minions that could have made it fun for people who like to collect minions like I do. Anyways, but neither of them had any real major changes made to them, like, say, siphoning some of the planned Island Sanctuary rewards to the other variant dungeons to make them more repeatable, or changing the mechanics, siphoning rewards to other variant dungeons. What? No. Or change the mechanics of Island Sanctuary to be more engaging. Yeah, they needed major changes, like completely changing how it works. CB3 had decided on how these things were going to go, and was either unwilling, reluctant, or financially unable to course correct. I think this is what it is. I think it's about the finances. The studio cannot swerve when it needs to, which has me fretting. But why not? Why not? Why couldn't they have added more stuff quicker to variants? I don't know. Okay. Wow. What am I supporting here? What? That's a strong statement. You said I haven't been to my island in months. I really wish they had done more with it. I was expecting to build like an actual resort for myself. That's what I thought too. Like a personal house. Yeah, like Rob said, personal housing on the island. That would have helped a lot too. But then it would be something that went away if you unsubbed. So the housing demolition keeps people subbed. So I feel like maybe they don't want to give you personal housing because maybe you will not stay subbed then, because it will just stay. Unless, imagine it just demolishes your island sanctuary, you have to start over if you unsub. I would have loved PvP Blitzball. Blitzball, I think HP said is never coming. Said it's never coming. Maybe they weren't sure how variants were going to be received. Yeah, and they didn't want to bother putting a lot of resources into it. It's the same story every time. I think that's it. I think that's actually right. And I think it's the same story every time. They're not sure how the new thing is going to be received, so they don't want to put enough resources into it. And then because they don't put enough resources into it, it's not very exciting. And it's like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know? So I don't... I suppose my frustration mostly stems from a feeling that a game I'm vocally a fan of and still recommend. Yes, there's a hell of a lot of RPG to get through before you inherit my malaise. Hasn't been able to grow its team or up its game because, well, it's the only thing keeping the rest of Square Enix afloat. But does Square Enix realize that? Back in August, an earnings report from Square stated that MMOs, which includes 11, but 14 is definitely the main one, made up 68.5% of its operating profits. And these were pre-Dawn Trail numbers. Meanwhile, almost every other thing the company put out has failed to meet expectations. Yeah, they killed live service games left and right. 14 is both somehow one of Square's most successful projects, while feeling like it's most starved. This is what it's about. This is the crux of the matter. The company's current president, Takashi Kiryu, has stated that there's been a great deal of restructuring going on, as per a financial report, which might mean Yoshi-P is able to wrangle some more support for the studio. We've established a regular forum for the heads of the individual studios and myself as president to discuss the titles we plan to produce, the status of ongoing projects, human resource allocation, and other topics. Okay, that sounds like cope to me, though. Maybe even phrasing it like that's part of the issue. Final Fantasy XIV has a ton of goodwill, plenty of which is earned. The arc from Realm Reborn to Endwalker is nothing short of magnificent, and the fact it exists in defiance of the game's catastrophic 1.0 release is a timeless success story. I met and interviewed Yoshi-P, and he was the picture of professionalism, even if he was in his rights to split me down the middle with a big sword for the amount of time I spent grumbling about his game. Here's the thing about Yoshi-P. He appreciates your constructive feedback. And that's something that the community hasn't come to grips with yet. Yoshi-P personally thanked me for making an incredibly critical video about Endwalker and said that he was really glad that I shared my thoughts because it helped them. So, something that I had a shitload of people in the community tell me I should have never said, and they were super pissed off that I said it. Yoshi-P himself was glad that I shared what I really felt at the time. Could I have said it in a slightly better way? Maybe. But, I mean, that's why, for me, in the long run, I have faith in FF14. Because I know Yoshi-P listens to the feedback. They do take the feedback very seriously. And so, while we might hit some bumps along the way, I think that as long as they're listening and they're trying to make changes according to what players ask for, the game will have hope to succeed in the long term. But if I take a step back and look at the whole, I don't know if FF14 can really justify its current patch cadence. This is the thing that concerns me right now too. Its lack of flexibility. Its inability to excite its long-standing player base with anything novel and new. I don't know if I can say it's fine for 8 months or even 12 to pass before an MMO expansion is something substantial for its non-hardcore player base. I mean, when you think about it's 9 months between raid patches, raid tiers. So even if you are into the raiding, even if you are a raider, you have a long time to wait between the raid tiers coming out. So I have raider friends who also have the same issue. It's not just if you're not hardcore. It's just everybody kind of feels this in their own ways. You know, at a certain point, if you're raiding, you might find yourself just doing log runs to entertain yourself. But parse runs. And I did that for a time, even in previous expansions. It's not like these problems are new to Dawn Trail. But it's just they started to be really, really apparent in this expansion because a lot of the... I think, in my case, and maybe a lot of other people I know, a story being just so absolutely head over heels incredible and fantastic, makes you cry, makes you feel all these things. For me, the enthusiasm that comes from that does bleed over into other content. But without that, it seems like a lot of the cracks are laid bare. And and are subject to greater scrutiny, especially after a lot of us struggled with the patches of Endwalker. Meezer, thank you so much for the 47-month resub. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Zep, are we to thank you and your critical Endwalker video for Dondril? Yes, you can thank me for that. You're welcome. Yes. You're welcome, yes. Got no money to play this mid content. I can play WoW or Ashes. Well, ultimately, it is up to you to decide what to spend your money on. They're too rigid. Yes, I completely agree. I completely agree with that, Jamie. For Endwalker, they only changed variant rewards on the last one. Oh yeah, that's right. They waited for the last one, even though people have been complaining about it since the first day. And we had a whole other one added in between them doing anything about it. And then the changes that they made were pretty small. Yeah. The War Within story is better than Dawn Trail. Kinda, yeah. It was. I enjoyed it more. Even though there was way less cutscenes. Yeah. FF14 underserves its target audience once they've caught up. Yeah, that is true. I do think that's true. I don't know if I can say that my current subscription, held mostly because this is where all my roleplay friends are, is worth it. I can't look you in the eye and say I'm confident my cash is going towards the game I actually love. Honestly, it kind of... It's sad. It's just sad to hear that, even though I know a lot of people do feel that way. It's the fact that this is clearly someone who is really invested, loves the game, cares a lot, tried all kinds of different features, and they're having trouble holding on. They're staying sub because of their friends that they do roleplay with, but how many people have that type of a community that's keeping them, that isn't just going off to play a different game? It's concerning, but a lot of these complaints I brought up in Endwalker patches already. I have been over this, and they just continue on. Not to get all prophetic or anything, but it really does feel like this is Final Fantasy XIV's next big hurdle. It's a slower existential threat than a catastrophic 1.0 launch, but it's just as dire. As PCGamer's own Molly Taylor pointed out, 2024 was the year that F14 needed to tackle its stagnating formula, and it hasn't. Not really. Maybe it'll do that in 2025, but the fact it took so long will be a cause of concern. It is a slower threat. I think that's fair to say. That FF14 won't die. Like, it's not going to suddenly be dead or anything. But the bigger threat that I think that it faces is just more people becoming apathetic about it over time. More people just subbing less, more people logging in less after they finish the story. And it might be something that kind of goes unnoticed or really just continues on because they're constantly experiencing churn. So you constantly have new people joining the game that are going through story, having an incredible experience going through story. It takes them 400 or 500 hours in some cases, between 300 to 500 hours. You have a ton of new people constantly going through that, populating the lower level content, populating most of the game's content. And then once they reach to end game and they finish a lot of stuff, they kind of fall off and do other things. And then so we have this, maybe they'll come back for the patch and then they unsub again. And so the game doesn't die, but it starts to have a dissolution of cohesive social groups at endgame. So the thing that makes the MMO feel alive as an MMO and not just alive as a single player RPG is a thing that is just kind of slowly trickles away and fades away over time if nothing is really done to keep that exciting for those, you know, the target audience, like you said. Story enjoyers, midcore people, casual people. Not to get all, yeah. It's just people it's just a slow apathy. FF14, in many ways, okay. The MMO's apocalyptic 1.0 release suffered from a set of assumptions about game development that caused the whole thing to explode. Back then, Yoshi-P established that cruise ship itinerary, setting up a giga spreadsheet that had everything mapped out from meetings to bathroom breaks to get it done. I told you he likes doing spreadsheets. I told you. He loves that. For him, Island Sanctuary is amazing. It feels like we're very much in similar territory here. WoW is soaring ahead of FF14 in terms of what it can actually output, while FF14 itself operates on a 10-year-old assumptions about what MMORPG players want and how much they're willing to accept. It was brought back to life with a winning formula, but that formula has grown stale. Something's got to get shaken up, because I want this game to be worth what I put into it. I want Dawn Trail to become a glimpse of hope on the horizon, it felt like, before these same dogged systems wore me down again. I want to forge ahead. Well, let's hope CB3 can manage it. Holy shit. Holy shit, Harvey Randall. You have dropped a huge freaking bomb with this article. I cannot believe you really went there. You really put it all out there, didn't you? I gotta say, I totally agree. I completely, totally agree with everything you said, man. I really do. This is the truth, and people might not like it, and I'm sure people are super mad, but this is incredibly based, and it comes from the perspective of someone I can relate to very much, because this is someone who loves FF14, clearly, and loves World of Warcraft, and likes the things that they do differently, and wants to see FF14 meet its potential. The potential that we know is there, but just needs a little bit of shaking up to really work. It needs to fight for people's subscription fee the way that Blizzard does. It needs to give you so much value for that. And I don't know how they're gonna do it with the budgeting. They need to do some crazy things. They need to mix up the formula, hire new people, do whatever it takes. Because, I'll give you the link to the article, sure, yes. Let me give you the link. That's it. I've seen World of Warcraft learn from Final Fantasy XIV. I have been a big enjoyer of both games. Of course, as you know, I played World of Warcraft since launch, and so that's really my original home. And I hopped over to FF14 when I was in the shitter in Warlords of Draenor. And I have seen in recent years, since Dragonflight, World of Warcraft look at what FF14 does well and try to do some of those things while still maintaining its own identity as the game that it is. So we had a situation before where WoW pushed people to be online all the time, every day, in this endless treadmill of way too much shit to do, way too much to keep up with, and it sucked, okay? It was horrible. It pushed people away. It pushed me away when I really tried to make it work. I just felt like, God, I can't deal with this anymore. I feel better just giving up because it's just too much. It's not fun. And in the meantime, we had FF14 giving you things to do that without putting too much burden on you. Just whenever you want to do it is fun, and that's something that people have really liked about FF14, about not giving you too much pressure, not overburdening you with pressure. But WoW, with recent years, they moved closer towards the middle, giving you not so much pressure on you that it's crushing, but enough to do that it's fun. You have daily little fun things to do all the time, every week. And it's easy to keep up with once a week even. FF14 hasn't been, like, I think FF14 could stand to also move a little bit further towards the other direction, because it's also kind of an extreme case of not enough to do. but it's not evolving. It needs to evolve. And I just don't know what it's going to take for that to happen. Yeah. You need some pressure and some things going on that makes people excited to log in and excited to do things together. And people complain about FOMO, but you know what? A little FOMO doesn't hurt. A little bit of FOMO means that there's something to miss out on. If there's nothing going on to miss out on ever, then what's the point of logging in? What's the point of paying for a subscription service that never has anything that you might miss out on if you weren't subbed that month? You need something going on that makes people feel like that's that cool thing going on we better all do together. That's what keeps the guilds alive. And yeah, you said you think FF14 is scared of making gameplay closer to WoW because they don't want people to feel like they need to get on every day. Well, they don't have to. The thing is, that's not even true in WoW anymore. You don't have to get on every day in WoW anymore. You can get on maybe once a week, if that. There's catch-up mechanics in place, so even if you don't get on 1 week, it's okay, you know? So they could stand to learn more than they have. And, but I do think that you've brought up a good point that it could be a fear that they have. I have the sense that FF14 devs are operating under a lot of different kinds of fears, worries about what players will like or not like, and they're terrified of shaking up the formula. But they need to. They really need to. Yeah. At the same time, you don't want it to interfere with having a job, take care of your Of course not. Yeah, of course not. I play WoW once a week for heroic raids and it's fine. Yeah, it's totally fine. You can spend all day playing, but you don't need to. And that's fantastic. Yeah. So, man, this article had a lot of really good points in it. And, look. Right now, in World of Warcraft, I have made a World of Warcraft YouTube channel. I've made a World of Warcraft guild on EU and NA. And a lot of the buns in these guilds, like the guilds are popping off. In World of Warcraft, our NA guild, literally we might have to make another guild because we've almost reached the cap of 1,000 players that can be in it. We need to make another guild soon, probably. We'll just link the guild chats so we can fit in more people to the guild. EU is also popping off. We got normal raids going on, we got heroic raids going on. And guess what? A lot of those people, not all, but a lot of those buns know me from FF14. They're coming from FF14. Because we just don't have anything to do in FF14. It's in between the patches. And we love FF14. And we're all just like, hell yeah. Can't wait to find out about the next story patch. You know, we're gonna play WoW while we're waiting for the new information and the story patch, and we'll do that, and then we're probably gonna come back and be playing. For me, WoW is the MMO. WoW is the one that feels like the MMO that I'm playing day to day with the guildies, and FF14 is the RPG that I'm playing for story updates and occasional like big. The Alliance raid is a story experience. The dungeon is a story experience for me. And how can FF14 maintain the subs, monthly subs, that way? I don't know. Yeah, it's like, it's not like we're over in WoW like, oh, fuck FF14, it's dead. Nobody's saying that. We love FF14, but it's just, we're entertaining ourselves as MMO players in the meantime. I brought this up because this was a crazy article that got posted by PCGamer that really, really laid it all out on the line. And pointing out some very important factors like the competition in the market and the need to innovate and all this stuff. I think it's a fantastic article and I really liked it. I mean, I agree. I think it's important to hear. I hope that the right people see it, and Yoshi-P will steer the ship in the right direction. That's not really all we can hope for now.